Welcome to episode 38 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. It's December 8, 1929, in Rome. Italian football has just launched its first truly national round-robin league, the new Serie A. The capital is still Mussolini's showpiece. Imperial avenues under construction, monuments scrubbed for parades, and the regime obsessed with unity and symbolism. But in football, Rome is already divided. On one side, Lazio, founded in 1900 by rowers and middle-class students from the northern Prati district. On the other, Roma, a brand-new club created in 1927 by fusing three city teams to give the capital a single super club strong enough to challenge the northern powers. Lazio refused to join that merger, protected by an army general high up in the fascist sporting hierarchy. So when these two meet for the first time in the new National League, it's not just a match. It's old Rome versus new Rome. It's North versus Center-South, and the regime's desired One Rome project split right down the middle. The first Derby della Capitale ends 1-0 to Roma. On paper, 2 points in the inaugural Serie A. In the city's memory, the beginning of one of the game's most political, theatrical, and enduring rivalries. Today we'll walk through how Lazio and Roma came into being, why that first 1929 derby mattered so much, some of the fixture's most charged moments, and then put the Derby della Capitale alongside other great derbies to see what makes Rome's version so particular. In 1900, 9 young men gather in the Prati district, just north of the city centre, and establish Lazio as a multi-sport club. Football gets added a few years later. The name Lazio is regional, not just urban, a nod to the whole surrounding region, and part of a broader turn-of-the-century push towards organized sport and modernity. By the early 1920s, Roman football is a jumble of smaller clubs. The big powers, Provercelli, Genoa, Inter, Juventus, are almost all from the north. If Rome wants a team that can compete nationally, the logic goes it needs to consolidate. So in 1927, under fascist regulations, 3 clubs merge, Alba Audace, Fortitudo, and Roman. They form Associazione Sportiva Roma, with red and yellow colors drawn from the city crest. The project lines up nicely with the regime's obsession with unity and spectacle. One strong capital club, like a footballing extension of the new Via dei Fori Imperiali. Lazio are supposed to join, but they don't. Gustavo Vittorio Giuseppe Vaccaro, a general in the Italian army and influential figure in the regime's sports administration, happens to be a Lazio man. He uses his position to shield them from the merger. Lazio keep their name, their sky blue, and their independence. Roma are born as a kind of state-favored capital club, Lazio as a stubborn holdout. From day one, the derby is baked into Rome's football DNA. Roma, new, merged, explicitly Romana, drawing support from the working-class districts in the center and south. Lazio, older, more multi-sport, with roots in the north and a reputation, at least early on, for more middle-class backing. It's not a simple class divide, and it will blur over time, but the sense that these two clubs represent different Romes, geographically, socially, even politically, is there from the start. The new national Serie A launches in 1929. 18 teams, home and away, the format that will define Italian football. So on this day, December 8, 1929, Lazio hosts Roma at Stadio della Rondinella. 15,000 witnessed the very first Rome derby. Details are sparse compared to modern games. No heat maps, no XG, but we know the essentials. Roma win 1-0. The scorer in the 78th minute is Rodolfo Volk, the Italo-Slovene striker who becomes an early idol. The game is physical, partisan, and sets the tone for nearly a century of bad blood. In a league sense, Roma finished 6th that season, Lazio 15th, Juventus win the title. But in a symbolic sense, the first blow in the capital goes to the new merged club, the one designed to carry Rome's name around Italy. Lazio, the team that refused to merge, are cast as early underdogs. It's worth pausing here. We're only 7 years into Mussolini's dictatorship. The regime is using sport as a propaganda tool. Stadiums, youth organizations, national team triumphs under Pozzo. We talked a bit about that in the OTD episode 14, about the Battle of Highbury. The derby from the very beginning is entangled with that Italy, a unitary state trying to project strength while its capital can't even agree on one club. Through the 1930s and 40s, the Derby della Capitale grows as the city grows. On the pitch, Roma win their first Scudetto in 1942, the first team from the south of the River Po to become champions of Italy. Lazio are more mercurial, occasional title challenges pre-war, Less silverware, but plenty of derby stubbornness. The fascist regime falls, Rome is occupied and then liberated, Italy becomes a republic. But the derby survives regime change. In 1953, when what we today know as Stadio Olimpico opens, Lazio and Roma share home ground, with visible demonstrations for the fan base. Roma's core support in the Curva Sud, with its heavy working class and left-leaning identity. Lazio's fans cluster in the Curva Nord, with pockets that will later become associated, sometimes uncomfortably, with right-wing and nationalist symbolism. Those labels are not absolute. There are right-leaning Roma fans and left-leaning Lazio fans. Plenty of people go to just watch football. But the derby keeps being a place where Rome's political and social tensions flare up in concentrated form. We could do an entire podcast just on a top 10 of Rome derbies. Well, there's an idea, but in the meantime, here are some of the moments that give this fixture its distinctive flavor. In 1933, Roma beat Lazio 5-0, still the largest margin in derby history. For Roma fans, it becomes an early myth. 5-0 as shorthand for total supremacy. Lazio's biggest win would max out later at 3-0, which they achieved several times, which only reinforces the asymmetry in the folklore. Roma get the iconic goleada, Lazio get grind-downs and revenge nights. On October 28, 1979, before a derby at the Stadio Olimpico, a flare fired from the Roma end travels the length of the pitch and hits Lazio fan Vincenzo Paparelli in the eye. He dies in the stands. It's one of the darkest days in Italian football. The match is played, but the rivalry is never quite the same. Violence and ultra-culture, already intense, harden further around the fixture. To this day, Paparelli's name and image appear in Curva Nord tributes. Fast forward to the late 1990s. Serie A is the richest league in the world. Both Roman clubs are loaded. Lazio, under Sven-Göran Eriksson, assemble a squad that looks like a Panini sticker album. Mancini, Nedved, Veron, Simone, Salas, and Nesta. Roma, under Fabio Capello, respond with Batistuta, Montella, Cafu, Totti, and Emerson. Derbies in this period feel like mini Champions League nights. Stakes are Scudetto level, not just bragging rights. On December 17, 2000, Roma wins on a prolific own goal by Paulo Negra, still being sung about today. You'll easily find that autogol on YouTube. On March 10, 2002, Roma destroy Lazio 5-1. Totti scores, kisses the badge in front of the Curva Sud, and the game becomes known as the Derby del 5-1, and for some the Derby del Pupone, referencing Totti's nickname. It is the modern counterpart to that 1933 5-0, visual, televised, endlessly replayed. For the generation of Roma fans, that's the derby. And lastly, on May 26, 2013, Roma and Lazio meet in the Coppa Italia final, the first time in the competition's history that the final is a city derby. Lazio win 1-0. For many Laziali, that single match outweighs years of league derbies. Coppa in faccia, or a cup in your face, as eternal one-upmanship. The Derby della Capitale has been played 186 times in official competitions. Roma have a clear edge overall, 70 wins to Lazio's 51, and the rest draws, of course, though in certain eras the balance swings back and forth. In the Derby pantheon, where does Derby della Capitale sit? Within Italy, it's part of a crowded field, just to mention two famous ones, the Derby della Madonnina, Inter versus Milan, the San Siro Cathedral, Scudetti and European Cups in the line, and of course the Derby d'Italia, Inter versus Juventus, less geographic for sure, but more ideological, Northwest powerhouse versus Northern metropolis. What makes the Rome Derby different is less the trophy count and more the atmosphere and symbolism. Two clubs who share a stadium, but not a city identity. A rivalry born under a dictatorship, with one club literally created by a fascist merger project and the other protected from it by a general. A 20th century history of violence, ultraculture, and political signifiers that's more intense than most. Globally, it's not as commercially hyped as El Clásico, Barca versus Real, or the Super Clásico, which is Boca versus River, or the Old Firm, Celtic versus Rangers. But among fans and groundhoppers, Derby della Capitale is regularly cited as one of Europe's must-experience derbies. Less for global superstars, more for noise, color, and raw edge. It has also lasted. Regimes fell. Roma and Lazio went up and down, won and lost. Italian football's power center shifted north, then briefly towards Rome, then back again. But every season, twice, and sometimes in cups 3 times, the city snaps into derby mode, flags, insults, and that oddly Roman mix of theater and fatalism. Seen from 2025, The first derby in December 1929 looks strangely modern in outline. A brand new national league trying to assert itself. A capital city split between two clubs that embody different myths. Power politics in the background. A regime that wants one narrative. A city that insists on two. Nearly a century later, the Derby della Capitale is still doing the same job, turning all of Rome's contradictions into 90 minutes of noise, color, and, if you're lucky, one more goal than the neighbors. That's all for episode 38 of OTD, the day Lazio and Roma met in Serie A for the first time, and Rome's eternal civil war on grass properly began. If you've got memory sources of favorite Derby della Capitale stories, then email us at otd@17lawsguy.com. Subscribe and leave us a 5-star review so more Derby nerds can find us. Tomorrow, in episode 39, we'll cross the ocean again and fast forward to 2018. Boca Juniors versus River Plate, a Copa Libertadores final, too combustible for Buenos Aires, moved to Madrid and remembered simply as the Superfinal. Stay tuned.